Well, this is exciting.
Very much so.
I know. In a room for once together rather than not like looking on Zoom.
And you're back in the homeland.
I know, back in the homeland. Thought I'd take this opportunity to actually get us a nice little spot. And
Beautiful.
yeah, so how are you, Declan?
I'm very well, thanks.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
I know.
Good to be here.
I know. It's good. It's exciting. So today we're going to chat about, a bit of our journey together.
Yeah.
Ever since our fateful meet on a BA, was it a BA flight? On a BA flight about 2.5 years ago.
It was a BA flight. Yeah. I was back when Manchester United won a trophy and I was flying back from London. But we'll not talk about that. We'll not dwell on that. But yeah, it was a nice bit of fate.
Yeah, it was. It was. So to create a bit of context around this conversation,
yeah,
do you want to tell everyone, a bit about what you do and
my favourite question?
Your favourite question, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 2.5 years we've been working on what this one line pitch is, but it seems to be changing all the time.
Well, I'm Declan, 36. It's like a dating profile. But dad of two beautiful girls, married to Jenny, and I'm an entrepreneur that runs a group of businesses within the hospitality and events sector. And yeah, we met 2 years ago, and yeah, the rest is history. Things have grown, things have got better.
Yeah. So obviously with all that in mind, like a lot's evolved in the 2 years, right?
Massively.
So what if you can cast your mind back to 2.5 years ago, like what was going on for you then?
Yeah, God, it feels like yesterday, but actually it's forever ago as well at the same time. I suppose at that time when we met, I just had Amelia, my eldest girl. She was 18 months. We didn't know we were expecting our second yet at that stage. No, we didn't know. It was 2022, so definitely not. Had my core business, Nightcap, which is the events company, and that's what we were focusing on. So outside bars, mobile events, and our staffing agency for hospitality. And yeah, life was good, but I would probably say the feeling was overwhelmed, I would say, was probably the main one. Chaotic might be a bit strong, but I probably felt I had I had core values and I knew what I wanted to do, but it was almost like I couldn't put it all together and streamline it, and probably took a lot of things on board myself, on my own shoulders, put a lot of people first before myself, and yeah, I suppose for context as well, like when we had met, it was sort of 6 months prior to that I had been introduced to a therapist who I did 6 months of CBT with. And when I had met her again, it was that sort of feeling of like, I was overwhelmed, I was irritable, there was just a lot going on. I think off the back of, not to bring up the pandemic, but running an events business, in that phase, we literally shut down. Like there was nothing going on. And a lot of people, like my wife Jenny is a doctor, and she'll say, I worked throughout that whole period of time, and she did, and my goodness, I wouldn't have wanted to go through what her and her colleagues had to go through. But it was not a choice of mine to not work. And I think at the start it was like, oh, this is like, okay, like it's sunny and we're off and it's interesting. I had no kids at that stage. It was just me and the dogs, and we're getting furlough and whatever. But I think it's only now on reflection that as that progressed, the uncertainty of like what was coming out the other side of that. And then we found out we're expecting our first daughter. So, providing for the family, what does my business future look like? What does my future look like? So I think there was a lot of uncertainty and certainly feeling overwhelmed. And anyway, going back to the CBT, I think at that stage I knew I needed to do something, take some action to help myself, put myself in a better mindset. And that really helped me sort of look inward and develop or see what my core values were. And I was going through periods of bits of anxiety, and it helped to settle that. But that sort of 6 month progress came to an end, or that journey came to an end, and that was fine. So when we had met, it was about 2 or 3 months after that, and I think I was very much open to wanting to progress my journey. What that looked like, I was unsure, but obviously our conversation on the plane, you told me a bit about what you did, and it just felt like it could be a good match to further our conversation and see where that went.
Yeah. So lots going on, right?
Yeah,
At the time,
yeah,
lots
yeah.
going on. I mean, one of the things that I always say, right, and give credit for anyone who actually engages in a conversation is taking responsibility or having high agency
Yeah.
in their life, because there's a lot of people that don't, right?
Yeah.
Like they just head, and this isn't a judgment thing, but it's just like head down, going, oh, there's so much going on. How can I put something else in there? Or how do you have the time to actually
Yeah.
engage with trying different things or looking at different avenues to try and improve things when I've got this pressure of work, like you said, baby either on the way or kids at home.
It's
Whereas-
easy to make excuses, though, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, it is easy to
Like
make
that on that plane, as we've discussed many times before. I could have sat beside you, stuck my headphones in. You know, you were there with your wife and young
Yeah.
daughter as well, and could have been like, "Oh God, like how did I get this seat? You know, headphones in and not speak." And then this wouldn't be here today, and you know, who knows how life would have panned out. So again, although it didn't seem like it at the time, but the action of just having a conversation,
Yeah.
has has been brilliant.
Yeah. But I think that is a mindset thing as well, right?
Yeah.
Like being open to opportunities. Mm-hmm. Like you have to actually take advantage of them if you see it in front of you. I actually remember in the plane, because that was very start of this business for me as well.
Yeah.
Like the narrative in my head. And I'd been thinking about,
Practicing
taking
your
advantage
pitching.
of opportunities. Yeah. Like going, of this, I could actually help, or this would provide value to you. Something we've talked about a lot of the time. But you have to have the courage to actually
Help
do
out.
something about it, right? I actually had to go. Of
course.
Oh yeah, do you want to put your number in my phone now?
I know.
which is a bit of a, I'm like just chatting up this guy.
Cut that bit out.
I'm just chatting up this guy, but you have to have the courage to be able to
Of course,
actually
yeah.
take advantage of those opportunities, right?
100%. And of course, like right place, right time, context and things. And it was just as I say, it was just a bit of fate, and certainly worked out very much positively. I feel.
So what made, like, we obviously had a couple of conversations after
Yeah.
that. Like, what made you feel comfortable enough or excited about to go for it, to say yes?
I think first and foremost, I think we had a good rapport, and it was, similar ages. We both had young daughters at that stage, married, running businesses. It was just, there was a lot of like similarities, which again, I think just helped like build that rapport. And as I say, I was in a headspace where like I felt there was more, and I just was trying to work out how to best channel that. And I was very open to, mentoring, business coaching, lifestyle coaching, whatever way we want to frame it. I was open to something. So then meeting you, I was very much like, well, yeah, like let's pursue this and see where it leads. There's no real, I'd say from the outset, I didn't have any particular expectation. It was just that I'm open to this, and let's see where it's going to lead.
Yeah. It's interesting you say like the more thing, because one of the, I think, misconceptions with this type of work is like your life needs to be a complete shit show to get any advantage out of it, right? So like actually what we've done and why we worked together for so long is like looking at each area of your life, work, family, health, relationship, self.
Yeah.
And actually leveling them all up, right? It's like lifting the levels of everything over the period of time.
Well, I would say one of the big things, you can say about more, but actually it was the realization of what you have and gratitude, and, not in the way of like I wake up every day and I'm really grateful and I write it in my journal, because I don't do those things.
Yeah.
But I have become very much, and do you know what? Probably if you wanted to bundle it up in a package, we spoke about this before, it's awareness. So like I am aware that what I have is amazing, and I have my family, my wife, girls, healthy, everything's brilliant. Have my businesses, they're going really well. Have good friendships, and it's I'm very much aware of those elements, and it's the appreciation. It hasn't, yes, things have grown and developed in the period of time that we've spoken, but at the same time, you certainly made me realize that the core foundation was there. And actually, if this is the level that you're going to build from, what a great place to start. So no, like your life doesn't have to be a shit show.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But like, I think one of the interesting things you said there, Ryan, it's almost like that you can be ambitious and you can want to lift the levels of your life, but then also be accepting of what you have. I think there's like a thing with guys, especially, that like, if I'm content with where I am, then I'll completely lose my drive. Like
I'm a failure. But I remember vividly one of our first conversations, and it was very much around that. I almost felt awkward saying like, I want more. Like that's, there's more growth to be had here. And I was like, oh, but I don't want to seem greedy. And because that's not what it's about. And, that's developed over time. That it's not, like you reframed it, or helped me to be able to reframe it, that it was, you can have high expectations, but it doesn't mean that is a bad thing. And it also doesn't mean like what you have now is poor, or, is not good enough by any means. But, because I think, a lot of people can try and really back in a little bit in terms of, well, don't be too ambitious. Look at what you have now, and like that's great what you do and whatever. And I know my mindset is there is definitely always looking ahead, future proofing, big picture thinking. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yes, I have certainly developed to be like, do you know what we've achieved there in that week, month, year to date, whatever, that's really good. That's brilliant. Like let's enjoy that. But it's not bad to want to keep growing and developing for the right reasons.
It's both,
but
right?
Everybody has their own reasons. It's not good or bad. So
I always, I love my gym analogies. But with this
love a sporting analogy.
Yeah. But with this one, it's like acknowledging what you have, like acknowledging the wins that you have, right? Because otherwise you don't build the confidence in yourself, or you don't build those muscles, right? To realize that you can actually, lift more, right? Or you can up level more. Exactly like in the gym. You can feel the reps when you're lifting in the gym, so your muscle grows. Whereas with your mind, you have to really acknowledge the fact that you're doing the thing, or else that muscle doesn't grow, which then doesn't give you the confidence to be able to take on everything else, right?
And it's also not always like boastful, or it's not like, maybe don't want to say certain things because, I lifted 100k bench press. It's like, oh, maybe you don't want to say, well, actually most blokes would want to say that because it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. But, I don't want to feel like I'm showing off. But if it's factual, it's not showing off and said in the right context, So whether that is, perhaps revenue in a business or profitability in a business, or I employ this amount of staff, or we own this amount of businesses. If it's factual, it's not boastful. You're just telling that story, and obviously done in the right, and it's all in the right way and context. But yeah,
But even that, you're caveating, right?
I know. I'm like pulling back. Wasn't talking about me.
I think it's like a cultural thing.
The 120k bench press.
I think it's a cultural thing as well.
Yeah,
like
totally.
We think that that's like a British and Northern Irish as well, right? Like doing extreme.
Absolutely, it's like you can do well, but don't be doing too well. Like reel that back in. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe have we got a bit better at that? But we, a lot of the podcasts that we would both listen to, or different people that we maybe follow, how many of them don't live in the UK? And there's reasons they don't live in the UK. They feel that America or Dubai is a bit more of a supportive entrepreneurial space to be in. So yeah,
I think it's like sort of if you don't communicate your value, then how can you help people? Like a super simple way of doing it. It's like what I've thought about, and we've spoken about loads of times. If you don't actually tell people what you do,
your business,
and talk factually about things that you've helped people with, exactly why we're doing this, right? Then how can you help other people? How can you have the impact that you want on the world?
And interestingly, we've had group conversations with some of your other clients, and a lot of those guys are saying something similar. I don't want to post on LinkedIn, or I don't want to make that phone call because I don't want to seem like I'm showing off, or also on the flip side that I don't want to seem like I'm desperate for sales or pushing. When actually, what are we doing this for? You're just trying to make a living, to support your family and lead a great life. That's it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but like what tangible changes have happened since we worked together?
I think, as I mentioned there, I do think if you were to bundle it up, awareness is the biggest thing. Just being aware of things that are positive and negative. stuff that would have affected me, and just being aware of that and either being able to manage it, not necessarily avoid it, but just be able to navigate things in a easier way. I think I personally feel a lot more in control and confident in all aspects of my life. A lot more calm, able to take time, make decisions, and within my roles in my businesses, I'm the managing director, I'm the leader, so it's there can be that pressure of like, well, all these people are looking at me as to what the next move is, and it can also be the clients then looking at you as well. But that there's definitely certain things there in the past would have been massively overwhelming. I'd have taken things very emotionally, not quite known what way to process that and how to deal with it. And now I'm just aware, and I've been able to delegate, not take everything on my shoulders. I think in that phase of my life, when we had met, and one of the things that has progressed is not putting all these people before me. As the leader, it can be very easy to say, well, I'm here to provide for my family, so put the wife above you, the kids above you. That it's a given, like that's what I'm doing it for. But my business partner, my staff, I want all them to be happy, and ultimately it's because I care. Like I care about all of these people, and I want them. I care about the customers that come to our restaurant, or the clients that we go and do events for. Like I care that they have a great experience with us, but you can't always put those people before you. And in that instance, for me, it was just trying to take everything on. In a business aspect, it was being, you emailed us, you were emailing me, you got a quote back, it was from me. Your site visit, it was from me. Dean, my business partner, and myself were coming out and doing your event. We were clearing up the event. We were coming back. You were getting the invoice from me. It was all me, and it wasn't sustainable. And as an entrepreneur, eventually having to take the risk to be like, right, well, we need to level up. We need to employ staff, full-time staff, good staff, and delegate. And being able to do those things efficiently in the last 2 years has massively changed my life. And it was mainly, I think, through our conversations of really getting a vision nailed of like, well, what is it that you see for yourself? Like, where is it you want to be? And it was always that, like, it's that classic, like, I needed to remove myself from the business to play to my strengths, which was that big picture thinking, creative. And you can't do that doing all of those tasks. So actually being able to be aware enough to make those decisions. And it wasn't easy. And you take yourself out, but you're still like, oh, what's going on? Should I go to that event? Should I not? Should I do this? Should I do that? But yeah, that was a bit of rambling. But I think awareness, and certainly now, as I say, feeling very much in control and confident in all aspects.
Yeah, great. It's so good. It's such a big change since we talked at the start. The one thing I wanted to pick upon there when you're talking about putting yourself before others, right? Yeah. So I came up with this concept. It's called deliberately selfish, where it's, yes, you put yourself first, but so you can show up for everything and everyone that matters to you, right? And we have this idea that sacrificing ourselves constantly, or it's the default way to live, right? Especially when you've got kids. Yeah. It's like, I should be bottom of the pile now because now I've got kids. The kids should be first, and my wife should be first, and I should just do work, and my needs don't really matter. Yeah. But because having kids and running a business, as we know, is 10, 20 year, 30 year game, right? Hopefully longer with kids. Absolutely. You need to be able to take these actions consistently. And if you don't put yourself first, if you don't look after yourself, you're running yourself into the ground. And like that was definitely a big shift from you to sort of go putting myself last, or what will people think of me if I, choose myself before all of these other things. But actually, by doing that, your business has grown, right? Yeah.
And it's benefiting everybody around me. And it was, I think what I found most interesting was like, when we started speaking, I suppose like everyone around me was like, who's like, Deck just says he's doing a call, and like, who's that with? And I was just, have a call with Steve, like business coach, lifestyle coach, whatever. And, but very quickly, like the people close to me would acknowledge, like, I can see, like, you're different. There's a little bit of a change. Maybe you can't always see that in yourself, but it happened. It happened relatively quickly. But the whole deliberately selfish thing, like even you saying it loud, like I think like selfishness has this negativity associated with it. Like I couldn't possibly be selfish because that's deemed bad. But when we're in this instance, what we are talking about is, like blocking time. That's for you. I'm going, going to take my fitness serious. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go running. I'm going to do this. Why? Because, well, it's for my health, first and foremost. But secondly, it's going to put me in a better mindset to show up to work or show up for the family and be present and be a better person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that classic. It's benefiting everybody else around you, but at the time it can feel, and especially when it's a change of character, and particularly to those around you as well, it can be difficult to navigate that initial change. But hopefully, quickly people can see that it's in everyone's benefit.
Yeah, there's a bit of friction, right? If gym analogy again, if you go to the gym for the first time, it hurts the next day, right? Like you've got a bit of DOMS in the arms, bit of DOMS in the legs. I mean, I did my legs last week for the first time in about 3 months. I could barely walk in here.
Still feeling it?
Yeah, I'm still feeling it. But that's the idea, right? Like growth, this has a bit of discomfort automatically built into it.
Yeah.
And almost having that discomfort is almost a good sign of you actually doing something, right? Like you living deliberately versus living default. Because if you're stuck in your comfort zone, you won't feel that discomfort. And that's usually it's always the easier thing to do in the short term, to just stay in your box. Whereas like flipping it and going, yes, this might be uncomfortable, but if this gets me to where I want to go in the longer term, then I need to ultimately take these actions and make this choice right now if I want to live that deliberate life.
Is there also a little bit of to the people around you, by you changing your characteristics or how you're living your life, there can be a bit of that you're like shining a light on, or they feel you're shining a light on them. Like, well, I'm not doing that. So why is he allowed to do that? Or like he's changed. He's going to the gym. Like that's not okay. Like don't be doing that. Or he's saying, oh, trying to think of things with dads here. Like if it's getting trying to balance that with the kids, particularly newborns and stuff. Trying to do shifts and things. But if you're back to work and trying to negotiate that, well, I'm gonna work on this day, so you need to do that night. And I know I find it really difficult still in mornings where we're all trying to get out of the house and get ready, and maybe the kids are kicking off and it's not good. And it's it has been negotiated that they're either going to granny's or Jenny's looking after them, and it can be, you just feel really guilty about going to leave the house when that's the agreement. Like you go to work, and we've spoken about this a lot. I don't know if it's working for myself, but if you don't work for yourself, you're out that door, because you have to be into work. But it's almost like this, oh, well, I'm the boss, so what's more important here? Yeah. But really but I know the frustration that it causes me by not exiting. So it almost feels a bit like a lose-lose, and you just have to stick to the rota as such and be like, no, like I'm going to leave and go, because ultimately it feels like it's being selfish, but it's going to be better for me in the longer run.
Yeah.
And then those around me, because I'm not going to be frustrated that it was late to work, etc. On the knock-on that can have. So,
but I think again that when you start taking the actions in the short term, then you start to see the benefits in the medium long term. If you trust in the process enough, that sense of guilt that you feel the first time you do that lessens, right? Because you know that you feel good about yourself, or you're able to deliver a little bit more. You're doing well in business. You feel good about your health. You have a better relationship with your wife. But at the start, it always takes a little bit of activation energy to trust in yourself and trust in the process that this is going to work for me.
Of course.
So, just interestingly, talking about Jenny and stuff, we talk about actual changes, right? Yeah. So, the things I talk about all the time are work, family, relationships, health. So, I suppose just because we're on that,
do you want numbers?
Numbers. Out of 10, how better is your relationship? But go.
You'd have to bring Jenny in.
Yeah, we'll bring Jenny in. That's actually the next testimonial.
That's the next episode.
That's the next episode. Bring everyone's wives in. But
please don't.
But sort of what you were saying about the people closest to you seeing the things.
Yeah.
Actually, it is a good. It
actually would be. Yeah.
It is a good indication.
Yeah.
But in those 4 areas, I suppose, work, family, health, relationships.
Yeah.
What do you think's tangibly changed? Like, what has changed? You could talk about work first if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, work, it's probably very easy to look at that dimension and say, because I did the numbers last night, just to be clear, say to look at numbers, base salary has increased by 50%. Group revenue has increased by 400%. That's the last 2 years, and that's included new business acquisitions, but the growth there is that's the numbers. That is what has happened in the last 2 years. And as I say, in terms of my role, I have very much started to live that vision that I'd always had, to the point that I love the question, what is it? What do you actually do day to day? I'm like, great, that's the question I always wanted. But yeah, that's where we're at. So I'm actually able to be in the office, look after the behind the scenes stuff of the business, and actually be looking at the future and the sort of creative direction of where we're going to make those decisions, whilst having the operational team on the floor looking after things, or the team in our restaurant, being able to run that, which is amazing.
From being at cocktail parties at 1 a.m. clearing tables up when we started talking, right?
100%, yeah. Still doing that, feeling the need that I had to be there, having that classic, I needed to have physically worked for it to be work, when actually what I'm building is a brand and a lifestyle, and jobs for currently over 100 people. I can't do that by living the way that I was, previously. So yeah, and that's now with, there's more growth prospects there that we want to keep. We discussed there being happy with where you are, but I'm always kind of looking to the future and what does that look like, and now trying to explore different opportunities, what that might look like. In terms of my family, we have Amelia is now nearly 4. Isabella arrived on the scene. She's now 18 months, which is crazy. Both happy, healthy. Jenny and I have both over the last year taken our health really seriously, I think, as a result of being parents. I think that really changed things, and wanting to just be more fit, able, and obviously longer term wanting to be there as long as possible for the girls. So I think between the two of us in the last year, we've lost, I think it's 12 stone collectively. We've done a high rock sim, doing a half marathon in September. Madrid High Rocks in November. So we're really, and the thing is with that, we're both really enjoying it, and it's been a really good outlet. As we've discussed about kind of struggling for hobbies and what do you do outside of work, and your life is very much work and family, and now having this has been brilliant. And through work, I've been able to develop a run club and trying to create a community of like-minded people, and that's been really, really good. So again, taking those positive actions, whereas I could just sit and be like, God, what would I do? I don't know what my hobbies are, and I'm not sure. I'm a bit alienated from my friend group. They're not all completely into this. They just like to go out drinking still. So that's been really good. That kind of boxed off family and lifestyle on one there. So there's some tangible.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Changes.
And also you mentioned Isabella's 18 months, right?
Yeah.
So you had a baby in the middle of all this,
baby,
right?
Yeah.
So I think you talked about at the start being overwhelmed and lots going on, but now you've have time to, have a newborn in the middle, quadruple the revenue, look after your health, have a great relationship with your wife, be doing all these things together.
Yeah.
I think all of that is a choice, right? What you've done really well, if I give you another pat in the back, is
don't like them.
Take the compliment. Is being really deliberate with your choices, right?
Yeah.
Actually going, this is what I actually want to do, not what I think I should be doing. Defining your version of success, picking things, right? Making decisions.
Yeah.
And going after them. Whereas a lot of people tend to have this narrative in their head of things that they should be doing. Oh, well, I've got a newborn, so I shouldn't be looking after my health then. I should just suck it up for a year, or we can't drive forward or buy a new business in this time because like, you know, there's too much stuff going on.
Yeah.
But you choosing deliberately. And then also, obviously, one of the things that we worked on as well is like structurally creating systems around your time to protect the time that's most important to you, to make sure you have the time to do those choices, right?
And that's the key thing, that with all of this, it's always very much family first. You know, I have built that life that, you know, I take a day off during the week, and at this stage I look after Isabella. I used to look after Amelia for a day. She's not at school, but that's how I've built it, and they always come first. And I think, like, looking at, you said there, like, the default way of living, a lot of people, I suppose I've never really been one for that sort of conventional. I went to university and stuff, but like, actually, on reflection, I really shouldn't have went to university. But I've never been one for convention, and I also think it's a mindset thing, that you can look at stuff in a negative capacity and be like, this is really hard. Like, and I did this before, Dean, and I have done this all the time. Like, what are we doing? Like, we've chosen this. This is really hard. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it this way? We should just go get a job. Or like, why did we choose to have a second kid? Or why did we get 2 dogs? You know, but you also have the opportunity to have these things, and it's like, well, actually, I get to show up and do these things with my girls. I get to go into work. I get to lead these people. I get to be the captain of this business, and see where we're going and make money for myself and my family. And it's, you know, it's a real mindset thing. Whereas before, yeah, it can be like, this is really tough. Like, we're making these hard choices. And so many people will still they'll say to me now, they see Jenny and I, you know, doing the high rocks or training for a marathon, half marathon, and not a marathon yet, and saying, God, like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that to yourself? How are you doing that? You know, your business is your girls, your life. Jenny's a doctor. Like, life must be really busy. How? We just are, and it makes me laugh. And I've said this before. I'll speak for myself. I'll not speak for Jenny, but I must have been really, really lazy before, honestly, because to be able, and in fairness, my dad always said, if you want something done, ask a busy man. And it's almost like when you're, I suppose, a bit like, you could probably get a gym analogy out of this, I'm sure, somehow, but when you're busy, it's just like you're in that routine. It's like just slotting something else in. Whereas when you're not, it's maybe a bit laborsome to actually get go. How do you get going? I don't know. I'll just not bother. But once you are going, it's like, no, yeah, I can add something else to the plate. Be mindful of burnout, but will not go too far. But
I think one of the things, just to jump on that, I really like the difference between busy and full.
Yep.
So like I want a life, and I know you do as well, full of things that I actually really enjoy. And you talked earlier about family first and building it from the ground up. You know, one of the things that we talked about all the time, and the systems and structures to build your week, is going, what are the most important things for you? Mm-hmm. Spend that time with Isabella or Amelia before on a Wednesday, making sure you get to the gym, you know, having quality time with the people that you love, and looking after your health. And then you build everything else around it, right? And we go, it's a combination of those choices. Mm-hmm. This concept of prime time, I obviously talk about, right? Where it's like dedicated hours for deliberate action, where we get really clear on the choices that you're making. And instead of the default work being first and you fit everything else around it, we flipped it, right? Where we go, what is more important? Because that's ultimately what you're doing it for, as you said. And then you build the business around the life that you want to have, and be very deliberate with the hours that you're spending. So like when people say to you, oh, how are you guys doing this? It's because you're choosing to prioritize those things, right? Like you're making decisions on those things and finding the time to be able to do them. And yes, that means that you might not have hours and hours and hours to watch Netflix every night, right? But you're choosing to go to High Rocks in Madrid versus that. Or you're choosing not to hang out in the pub every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Mm-hmm. Like you're choosing something else. Whereas people get into these habits of, oh, well, that's just the thing that I do. Whereas, you know, having these conversations with someone external quite a lot of the time, like I have a coach as well, which helps you sort of have that awareness to see it. And then what we've done is implemented those structures and systems in there. Plus, you built the mindset to be able to keep those going, and you're getting the results, right?
Yeah, I think that's the key thing there. I was thinking mindset again, because maybe if you aren't building the life and fitting those things in, people then look at those aspects and think, well, I can't. They deem their priorities to be different, so like I couldn't possibly fit that in. But again, see, it's very easy to make excuses, and it's that classic, difficult or hard choices now should hopefully lead to an easier life in the future, and easy choices now will lead to a more difficult life in the future. And I'm just glad we've kind of taken that step and we're progressing the right way, because that's ultimately what I'm here for, to fulfill my potential, and I don't want to leave anything on the table.
Yeah. And you mentioned about mindset then. So as a person, I suppose, like we talked about tangible, we tend to focus on the tangible a lot, right? Like more money, more time, look better, which is great. Like, but the reason why we do all of them is because it makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
It makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel like you're calm and control. You're on the path to hitting your potential, becoming really deliberate with your life, and making sure that you're not on that default path. So from an identity perspective, like, how do you think you've changed as a man?
As I mentioned earlier, I really feel more in control, and like I traditionally would have been like, yeah, I'm relatively confident, like I can handle myself, I'm sociable, like I'm cool. But I think I was always probably masking that a little bit, and it was all a little bit like of a show at times. And now it feels more honest and real, and no, I actually do feel in control and confident in what we're doing. It's a little bit like, it's maybe a cliche, but like the clouds sort of lifted a wee bit, and it's like it's more of a clear vision of what is going on, and that is definitely something of the last 2 years that has grown and developed. So yeah, just a real focus on that. Just that feeling of in control and confidence in what I'm doing, and it comes with experience and being more experienced as a dad and a business owner, and I think taking my health and fitness seriously has really been a benefit in the last year. It's almost wrong analogy, but like the icing on the cake of everything. Just that's been really good as well. So.
Yeah, it's almost, because you're like, one of the things we talk about all the time is you're a key driver in everything that we're talking about, right? So like in your work, whether you're working for yourself or working for someone else, right? Like you're responsible for that, like in your family, in your relationships, in your health. Like if you want the external results, you need to do the internal work almost, right? Like we think that we need lots of strategies and all of these other things. We look to external. But actually, if we look like internal and just upgrade our operating system, right, be a little bit more deliberate with what we're actually doing, then you get the external results, right? Because then you're able to like move through the discomfort to take the actions that you need to build the life that you want, almost.
I think as well, you just made me think about, I don't know if this is tangible or not, but accountability is a big thing. And actually, I think a lot of people, the default setting is like, I'm going to dish blame out on someone else here. Like it's someone else's problem that I'm not doing great in my business, or I'm fighting with my wife and whatever. And just for clarity, like it's, Jenny and I aren't like, and the family, it isn't all like the Waltons or something. Like there's definitely moments and there's ups and downs like anybody. But I feel so much more capable of looking inwardly and taking accountability where it's due and when it's necessary, and not constantly just looking for someone else to blame for those things. And particularly within I suppose both roles, like I see myself as the leader of the family and the leader of my businesses. A lot of the time the buck stops there. If something happens with a staff member, one of my first things will be to not blame the staff member for whatever the incident may or may not have been, but to think, well, did we give them the right training to be able to deal with that? Whereas I think a lot of other people, it's just immediately like, oh, well, it's their fault, or it's the customer's fault, or whoever's fault. So I think a lot of times it's important to be able to look inwardly and take that accountability where it's due. There'll be times where it's not due, but to be able to do that, I think, is a skill that a lot of people choose not to bother with. It's easy. It's easier to blame other people, right? Like,
yeah, totally. It's like that high agency, low agency thing, right? Also, one of the things you talked about, calm and sense of control, makes you feel good. Like, what's the only one thing that you can do right there? Can you control the external life circumstances? No, right? Focus on the things that you can control. Can you control what other people do? No. Can you control what you do and what actions you take? 100%. So instead of like giving away your power, almost, your agency to those things that you can't control, like choosing internally to go, right, you know what, like, what can I do about this? And that immediately gives you that sense of control, right?
And it's a work in progress, because there's definitely things, circumstances or people that will 100% rile you up or get under your skin, and trying to make that conscious choice to say, I can only control my own actions. It's like anything, it's doing the reps, and getting used to it. But it's definitely a better choice or way to live the life than giving them the control or the circumstance to control.
Totally. That's that like default thought loop, right? That default versus deliberate thinking I've talked about, like that first thought that pops into your mind. You can't actually control that.
Yeah.
Right. You might see loads of people talking about, oh yeah, you rewire your brain. I'm like, it's bullshit. You can't actually control that first thought. But what you can choose is what you actually do with that thought.
Yeah.
So you can act on that reaction, or you can go, right, oh, actually, yeah, they have pissed me off, but what can I do about this? Is this going to be worth my time, effort, energy to engage in this, or shall I choose to do something different? And you're totally right. Like, that is training. Like, that's reps. That is building muscle, exactly like in the gym. And again, with the gym, you can keep going, right? Like you said, you can be fitter, you can get bigger muscles, you can be better at football, rugby, tennis, paddle, whatever you want by keep practicing. So like, it was a really important point. It's not, you go to my house either, and it's not the fucking Waltons, I'll tell you that for free.
No.
But in comparison to where I was like 4 or 5 years ago, have I grown in all aspects of my life? 100%. And, you would say the same, right?
God, absolutely. And I meant to mention it earlier, but, one of your things that you'd help me introduce was the, what do you call it, like the cocktail calendar?
Cocktail clarity.
Cocktail clarity. So, having that conversation, getting the whiteboard calendar on a Sunday evening and running through our weeks to deliberately structure it, that we have our, first and foremost, what's happening with the girls, who's doing the school, runs, nursery, whatever it might be, who's looking after them, and then slotting in work and gym times, and we're all aware of what that week looks like, so that it's no surprise or shock or causes confrontations at any stage during the week. And from myself introducing that it was change, there was resistance to that in our household, and that was feisty at the time, and which is weird, because all I felt was, I'm trying to do this for the benefit of us, for clarity, and this will all be clean and concise. But it wasn't taken well at the time, and now Jenny's the first one with the calendar out on a Sunday night to run through the list. So we're both a similar personality, where we actually work well with the structure and systems and being clear on what's happening. Not massively like off the cuff people. Yeah. Although we're like, we should really try and be better at that. But like, that structure's been really good, just to nip things in the bud before they become an issue.
Yeah. I mean, the reason for the cocktail clarity, and like the reason why I invented that as well, was purely exactly what you said, right? If you're choosing to do these things and you want to make decisions, like, make sure you've got the time to do them. And if there's little things that happen every week, why are you spending like 5 or 10 minutes on a Wednesday morning having an argument over who was supposed to get milk? Right? Like, or who's supposed to be dropping the kids off to nursery, or double booking a gym class when your wife's supposed to be going out. It's like, what are your triggers in the week where you can have these conversations that just wipe out about 20, 30, 5-minute arguments? Or not even arguments, just conversations. Then you can focus on something that you actually, can use your brain for, rather than worrying about oh shit, I've got to go and get the kids some milk now, or else
Totally.
Emmy's going to kick off before I go to bed.
That's a given.
Yeah, that's a given. So yeah, I think like there's a lot of resistance sometimes when I work with the guys about adding structure and routine into their lives, where a full calendar in their eyes feels overwhelming when actually it's liberating, right? Because you've made the decisions of what you actually want to do, and all you're doing is making sure that you've got time to actually do it.
And the thing is, a lot of the time it can look like it's a full calendar, but actually part of that is you've created time, free time, or time to do the things that you wanted to do, which actually should be enjoyable. And I was always a big believer that in work it shouldn't be like you have to work 8 to 4 for it. Like I worked because like productivity wise, what have you actually done that day that's productive? Is it 2 hours if we're being generous? Between getting to work, getting home from work, coffees, lunch, chats. So I always used to feel guilty for. I always remember, was it my sister? I think it was. She drove past me in a coffee shop, and it was like lunchtime or something, midweek, and made some comment about. "Seen you in that coffee shop? Yeah, we having a meeting? No, I was just having lunch. I'd finished. Oh, like how you finished? It was only like lunchtime or whatever. It's like, oh, I used to feel really guilty, being like, oh yeah, I should be working more. But if I had my to-do list, and I boxed it off for that day, then that's cool. Now, obviously, working for yourself, there's probably always something to do. But as life has got busier with family and other commitments, I think it's okay to plan your week and know, well, actually, I've done X, Y, and Z, but I'm going to get on to whatever the rest of the list is tomorrow. Or actually, I've been able to delegate, and the team are looking after these aspects now. So that pressure's kind of off me to then be able to go and spend my time. Not necessarily as I please, well, sort of as I please, yeah. And that's how I want to build my life.
Yeah, and it is short term for long term, right? Like we've talked about, it's making the choices now for delivery and long term, but you also need to enjoy your day to day, right? So it's like we create a structure where you're enjoying it at the moment, but knowing that if you keep taking the actions on that, each part will level up, right? Over time, or you make a choice to go, right, I'm going to focus on my health for this period of time, so therefore I'm taking those actions. You know what, I'm actually enjoying going to the gym, but I also know that in 6 months time I'll be able to do that Madrid High Rocks because of the work that I'm doing now, and the same with the business stuff, right?
And as well as you would say, it's seasons, so things change. From having a newborn, they will grow and develop. It's not going to be the same in 6 months time as it was when they were first born, quite literally, but the structures and processes and feeds and just everything around it. So it can be embraced in different periods, or starting up a new business. It's going to be different to when it's more established down the line. So accepting that at that period of time, life might be a bit more chaotic or look slightly differently. And as you've suggested, you might have to adjust. There's actually less time here to go to the gym because I need more time in work, or I need more time with my family. And it's fluid. Those things can change, right? Like over time, and that's okay. I think a lot of people can get it's default, like just set. No, I work 9 to 5, go to the gym here, I do this, I do that. Like that's just me.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm a big believer in that it can change and ebb and flow. It doesn't have to be set. To be fair, I think life, society sort of changed a bit more with that, with the flexibility in working from home and things like that. So I do think people are a bit more open to that. But certainly I believe, and particularly you talk about the gym and training, like training blocks. So like train for a marathon, but then after I'll do an 8-week block to build up to the High Rocks.
Yeah,
it's just different seasons, and so how it looks changes slightly. But
yeah. It's like setting those seasons is an important point, right? Like what we tend to try and do is either do everything at once or get stuck in your ways, and then you sort of feel a bit shit because you're not nailing it all.
Everything at once is a bad one, isn't it?
Everything at once is really hard. So if we do the work, family, health, relationships, if you've got a newborn, for example, probably don't try and train for a marathon in 3 months after that, because you're fighting these external circumstances, and just because it's the way you did it before, your structures, routines won't work in that particular period of time.
Not to say it can't be done. I'm sure there's
sure it can.
there's people that can, but I agree.
But then it's all around choices, right?
Managing your expectations.
But then it's all around choices. Like for most people, for you, you know, you probably want to put more time into your family.
Wouldn't have been for me.
No,
but I don't know about yourself. But
well, I mean, I'm going through it still at the moment.
Still,
Right. But I think you're totally right. Like managing those standards and expectations for yourself for periods of time, knowing that, you know, you can step back from one area of your life to be able to focus on another for a period of time.
Yeah.
Because actually, you know, over the long term, if you alternate them, then actually that's the best way to more sustainable growth, you know, rather than like gunning just for work over a long period of time, right? Everything else sort of gets left behind. Whereas you go, right, I'm going to focus really on health for this period of time. Maybe I'll hire a PT for these 3 months to give myself a real boost, which then lifts your level, right? Lifts your floor. And you're up leveling sort of everything across your life. I remember us having a conversation, and I've thought about this as well, you know, about being really proactive with relationships with our partners, right, with our wives. And like I'm living it now because I've got a newborn. But I remember us saying, you know, I doubt in any marriage anyone's going to look back at the 3 or 6 months after you have a second kid and go, oh, you know what? Fuck me, that was great for our marriage. There's 6 months.
No,
but like
I don't think so.
sometimes go, oh yeah, no, marriage is terrible at the minute because, you know, we haven't been out on date nights or we haven't spent time. Whereas like proactively deciding that and going and having a conversation with your wife about it, going, you know, like we're not going to be able to get out here. Obviously, it doesn't mean to say that, you know, our relationship isn't good about it. Like when we get down there, let's plan a holiday 6 months down the line. Let's make sure we book in this gig. Let's make sure we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, could we sign this document that we don't hate each other? It's just a period of time.
But I think reconciling all those things in your mind beforehand, I think that's that's a real big thing. It's like pre-deciding what's good and what's bad beforehand, right? Before you actually do the thing.
But what does it all come down to? It's communication. So like if you keep that internally and, you know, think, well, we haven't had those nights, and goodness, what wonder what she's thinking. Like, does she think the same, or is she actually content, or like, does she hate me, or like what's going on? But actually just having those conversations and being clear and communicating. And again, look, it's not always easy, but it's worth it trying to be clear and just have that on the table and be like, yeah, that's cool. And that can go for any aspect in life, you know, client relationships, business relationships, whatever.
Yeah. And you're right, like all this stuff like isn't easy, but you build the muscle and it gets easier.
Yeah.
Right, like it gets easier, you get stronger, so therefore you're able to take on more. And it's not as if
it's easier not to do the action, but actually that's that short term ease, but long term it's not gonna go well.
Totally. Yeah, and like it definitely gets easier the more actions you take. And also, you know, we're not sitting here going our lives are completely perfect or your life is completely perfect, and it's not. Like you've more things in it now than you did have 2 years ago. But you still have much more feeling of control, ease. We talked about the tangible results that you're getting. 100%. So it's not about necessarily the amount of things that's in your day. It's making sure that the right things and you're using your time effectively, and you've got that mindset to, you know, continue to take the actions and continue to grow.
Absolutely. And like, look, it's important to say, like, even this year as an example, like there's been in my own life, there's lots going on personally and professionally that are it's not all plain sailing, and it's difficult, and you have to navigate those things, and there can be stresses and strains, but it's not the stuff you post about on Instagram. It's not what people want to see, but it's the truth behind it all. And the important thing is that, certainly for me, to just keep showing up, and that's what we're here to do, whether that's at home or in work. There's too much on the table, and more importantly, it's the person that I want to be, is to keep showing up and keep developing that growth and be the best version of myself.
Yeah, amazing. So if someone was in your position 2 years ago, or even now, to be honest, because I think with us talking about, you know, up leveling.
Yeah.
Like if they're unsure that something like this is worth like the time and the money, what would you say to them?
It's not. Joe, cut that out. I would say very much it is worth it. It's something I haven't even. It's not like in the most positive aspect. It's not something I give a second thought anymore. It's just like this is been very much worth my investment, the value that I have had out of it. And look, we've had this conversation. Like it can be difficult to. We're just talking the facts of what's happened in the last 2 years. I understand people could be like, well, I wonder could he have done that like on his own or whatever. But having an external, and like we've become friends, but having an external voice that isn't in my periphery, I think is massively important too. I know there's days that we go to speak and I can be, it can be tough and like, God, I don't know. And by the end of it, it's like, again, it's just like, right, okay, well, actually, that's been clear. And like, you don't have the answers. It's just like having a conversation and trying to break things down and, right, we'll have, have you thought about this? Maybe that, and why do you feel like that? And just actually breaking it down and leaving with a bit of a plan as to, well, let's see at the end of this, maybe go and do these things and see who that is. But you're not actually saying, definitely do this, definitely do that, don't do this, don't do that. It's just talking it through. Do you know what I mean? And that's, I think that's pivotal, particularly anybody in my position that is a dad, entrepreneur, spinning a lot of plates, to just have someone that is on your team and is there to help you. Because a lot of the time, as we've spoken about, you can be shown up to help everybody else, but who's there for you? And that's vitally important. Any successful sporting person, entrepreneur, whomever, will have a team, will have someone, people in their corner to help them. And so yeah, I would say it's been massively valuable for me. And yeah, I appreciate everything that we've done and how you've helped in the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, I mean it's been an amazing journey, and I think like one of the points you've said there about having someone in your team, I think that's you talked at the beginning about the rapport between us, like being in that same space, and we've had this conversation as well, like when you're running your own business, when you've got the young kids, when you're trying to be really deliberate across everything, you don't want to sacrifice any part of your life, really, right? Like you want to push hard. There isn't loads of people that are in the same position as you.
Yeah.
So actually, having other people, and one of the reasons why I created the group and the community was to have other people in that scenario, just so we could have those conversations. Exactly. And actually, we end up coaching each other, right? Sometimes.
That's it.
And hearing stuff from other people's perspectives is like super valuable as well.
Yeah. And it can be a real classic, like just realizing that you're not alone in the situations that you're going through, and a lot of people are trying to navigate very similar things, and just being able to chat about them with like-minded people, I think is amazing and vitally important, particularly for dads and men. I think you can really keep things in and not really want to talk about things, and it's like, no, I'm all right, I'm good, like, but actually once you kind of open the can of worms, it's like you would just chat, and that's what I found with yourself, and then the community that you've built as well. Just have those conversations, and it ebbs and flows, and there's been, there can clearly be partnerships or people being able to help each other, whether that's just conversation or actually from a business aspect. I think there's guys that have collaborated on a few things. So, yeah, really, really valuable.
Yeah. And I suppose like one of the things that I think anyway is the difference between sort of like what the work that we have done and maybe the CBT stuff is action at the end of it, right? Like we always have conversations, and then there's stuff to do. Yeah. It's always like forward thinking. We're always like looking at how we can move forward rather than necessarily analyzing too much.
I think that's key for anybody perhaps in that position, or that is thinking about speaking with someone and they're not quite sure. I find the CBT very much it's a bit more like looking in the past and looking at yourself and why you are the way you are, and understanding that, which I think is very beneficial. But with yourself, it's been a bit more forward thinking, which is who I, or certainly at that phase of my life and still now, is a bit more who I am and what I want to be doing, forward thinking and where we're going, and being proactive and taking those actions, and not being aware of the past, but not dwelling too much upon that. So yeah, very much that forward thinking I think would be key. And I think I said this before, in terms of like, if you were thinking about doing this, it's also very important to be open-minded and don't come into it if you're not going to be open and speak, and if you don't particularly want to participate fully, it's maybe not worth it. And I think that was me. I was just very open to it, and as you would say, and in a lot of aspects, whether it was the gym or sport, people are going to think we're like gym buffs here. all these gym analogies. But like the more you put in, the more you're going to get out.
Yeah.
Quite literally. So like if you're open and you want to communicate, and if you're all in, you're just going to get so much more out of it. So that would be the big thing. If you're going to do it, be all in.
Yeah. And like all of the things that we've talked about today is like, you know, you said being comfortable with where you are. So almost everything else is play above that, right? Like if you're cool with where you are, like a lot of the things that we talk about all the time is treating all these projects or actions as experiments, right? And we've got a hypothesis. We go, right, this is what we think you'll feel like, or these are results that we think we'll get based off these actions that you take. And if it doesn't happen, fine. I think there needs like that open-mindedness. It's like you have to be willing to experiment, right?
Definitely.
Like you don't know whether this is going to be good for you or not, right? Like you can listen to this, you can speak to friends, you can have a conversation to me, but you have to like almost trust in yourself and invest in yourself that you'll get the most out of the experiment, right? And you've got to experience it almost to be able to understand the value.
And also be willing to feel vulnerable. That's how you're going to get the most out of it. And it coincides very well with running your own business, being an entrepreneur, that having to take a little bit of risk, feeling uncomfortable, feeling vulnerable. But that's what we have to do to grow. And I certainly feel I've reaped the rewards of that.
Yeah, amazing. Right, I know you need to go on holiday, so that's probably enough time.
A 3-hour car journey with 2 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, mate. I'll stay. We can chat more. It's all right.
Yeah, you don't actually want to go back. But yeah, no, thanks so much, mate. I really appreciate it. And
great to speak to you.
It's been an amazing 2 years. Like I've said to you loads of times, when I acknowledge the fact of like all the work that you've actually done, everything that you've talked about here, it's not bullshit. Like you get the best results out of it by, you know, making those choices, putting in the structures. Like you said, I'm not telling you what to do, right?
No,
like you're doing everything yourself. You're driving forward. I'm just being that, you know, partner, that teammate to help you drive forward. And yeah, as you said, we have become friends. We've done lots of stuff together. So looking forward to the next 10 years, 20 years.
Brilliant. Me too. I appreciate it.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt. Little handshake. I guess the first time we've ever handshake. All right. Cheers, man.